28 days in mind when we talk about the menstrual cycle. I quickly want to inform you, it is not strictly 28 days for all females. No, but that is the average that we work on. Okay, so when we look at the menstrual cycle, there are many hormones, 10 to 12 hormones that are involved for all these processes to take place. Usually, there is one egg in a month, and so it is all about timing. All about timing? All about timing if you want to get pregnant, and all about timing if you do not want to get pregnant. Now, okay, right. The uterus must be ready when egg gets there, ovum gets there, in case it was fertilized. If no fertilization takes place, it will tear down and the lining of the uterus will start to rebuild from day one for the next menstrual cycle. And this is my favorite graph. And I think that you do have a type of graph like that on page 442. And this is the book of Appel de Klerk that we are using for those of you who are watching on a video. So on day 1, we know day 1 is the start of menstruation. That means that there was no pregnancy, no implantation during the previous cycle, and the wall of the uterus, which we also call the endometrium, will now start to tear apart, and it will be released through the vagina in the form of blood. Can you see why we cannot say the uterus starts to tear down? You see why I want you to specifically talk about the different parts of the uterus. The uterus is the whole thing, but actually it's the inside. Now, the uterus is the whole thing. There's a lining, then there's muscles, and we refer to muscles of the uterus, lining of the uterus. If you remember, the lining is the endometrium, use that word. Okay, right. So, I want us to start here, and then we will work our way up. So, on day 1, it starts to tear down, and now the uterus that was thickened is now much thinner, and it will start to build up again. Why? Because it is an energy consuming process to keep it thick like that. Right? To keep it thick. So it tears down. No, not to use too much energy. Rather use the energy for the primary follicle. Now if I say follicle, I mean the cells that forms the bag with the ovum inside. And remember, if we say there's an ovum inside, that ovum already was through the process of oogenesis. Now, you remember oogenesis? Where the diploid germinal epithelium cell changed into a haploid cell. Okay. And now it will start to develop, it will grow, and the moment when it is fully developed, we talk about the Graafian follicle. This Graafian follicle will now on day 14 be released into the fallopian tube, and we call that ovulation. If we look at ovulation, we will see that the endometrium now already are built up to a certain point. Now, And I want us now to move up to the involved hormones. So progesterone is very low, but estrogen starts to increase. When? When the Graafian follicle is developed enough, the Graafian follicle cells release estrogen. They spell it normally also with an O, no, estrogen. So the estrogen needs to build the layer. Now, ovulation, and the estrogen starts to lower a tiny bit, né? Because it still needs to build up, but progesterone increase. Why? Progesterone will maintain the thickness of the wall. And there's no Graafian follicle anymore, but it's now called corpus yellow body, corpus luteum. Okay? Do you remember the yellow spot in the eye was also fovea lutea? That's okay, and or the yellow spot. So the cells remain active in providing now the progesterone. Okay, and we see the levels increase. When we see the levels is going down, decrease, we realize no pregnancy occurred. And it's because of that lower levels, lower levels that it's being teared down. Because what is keeping the uterus lining being built and maintained? Progesterone and estrogen. You see? So if those levels fall, the wall will be broken down. Okay. It must stay high. And what is interesting, I just want to come in here. So for a while, this corpus luteum will provide it. And it will stay high levels. If there's no pregnancy, the corpus luteum start to disintegrate. If there's a pregnancy, the corpus luteum also start to disintegrate. And the placenta that forms, you know now what's placenta. Fortunately, we did it in grade 10. The placenta takes over the role as an endocrine gland. Endocrine gland, a gland that secretes hormones. So then the placenta takes over this role. Okay, and there's a good reason for this. Let's go and look at the hormones for the menstrual cycle. So we do understand now the role of estrogen and progesterone. The role of luteinizing hormone. So I first need a follicle to be stimulated. So the follicle stimulating hormone, easy, follicle stimulating hormone. Stimulate the follicle to grow. And the luteinizing hormone reaches its highest point during ovulation. So the luteinizing hormone will be the one that causes ovulation. Luteinizing corpus luteum, you see? So when luteinizing causes ovulation, the corpus luteum will then be formed. Okay. And then we see it's going much lower. If there's a pregnancy, what do we want the next month to happen? We want the next month a primary follicle must start to form again and become a Graafian follicle. If there was a pregnancy, we do not want another primary follicle, because then there will be another baby, but there's already one that's growing. Now, it does not work like that in humans, because we do not have enough space and energy to have one growing and another one coming, you see? Okay, so what happens is, if the progesterone levels, the estrogen level stays high, it will stop the follicle stimulating hormone. 2, it will inhibit the follicle stimulating hormone. Do you understand that? So if this stays high, means there's a pregnancy. And the follicle stimulating hormone will then not start to help the formation of another follicle. Does that make sense? Completely, no? Okay, so that is the menstrual cycle. Now it sounds much easier than in grade 10 because you already have your foundation knowledge. You agree? So there I just have then a summary, 3 stages, tear down. Which hormones are high during tear, which are low? Estrogen and progesterone must be low. But which hormone must start to function? FSH. For the follicle to be stimulated. Follicle stimulated hormone. Okay. The FSH also helps the boys or the male. Follicle stimulating hormone is present in male to help for the sperms to get there. Okay? Help for the formation of sperm. And LH for male? LH for male helps the testosterone to develop. LH helps testosterone to develop. FSH helps then, testosterone helps the sperms together with FSH. So it's also present in the pituitary gland of the males. Okay, right. Now we have rebuilding, to rebuild estrogen, to maintain progesterone. But the progesterone not only keep it thickened, it also provides the formation of the blood vessels in this thick wall so that there are extra oxygen and nutrients. It's like forming a perfect cradle. Nah. So that when a fertilized egg, that we call a zygote, becomes an embryo moves down, implants, it is ready to receive it. Okay, right. If there's no baby, we know what happened. We are back to square one. Okay, I think we talked enough about estrogen, progesterone, LH, and FSH. And I think we are ready with this. Ovulation. Now, when are you able to get pregnant? Only when there is an ovum and a sperm. Nay, but here is where we need to take care. How do you know that you are ovulated if you are ovulating? You will have a slightly increase in your basal temperature. A slight increase. 37.5 to 37.8.9. A slight increase. Now, most fertile days in the next few days. So, when do you think, if you want to get pregnant, is a good time to have copulation? Sexual intercourse. On the day of ovulation? Yes, definitely. The day before ovulation? No, take care. The sperm cell can live for 24 hours inside the female body. So, if there was sexual intercourse the day before ovulation, there are still sperm cells present. Nee. So if ovulation happens, there can be a sperm cell ready to fertilize. And fertilization is when the nucleus of the male fuses with the nucleus of the female. You remember that? Okay, good. It's good that we are repeating so many times. Nee, that is how we learn. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And then you can say, okay, but if ovulation is finished, remember that ovulation has the egg cell, the ovum, stays also for 48 hours. It stays in a way that it can receive a sperm. No. So they say there are a window period of about 3 to 4 days. 2 days before ovulation, 2 days after ovulation. That gives us about 4 days. No. Where you have a window period where pregnancy can occur. Because if it's a good sperm, let's count rather 48 hours, especially if we do not want to get pregnant. Ne? And then 2 days after ovulation, it's another 48 hours. That gives us 4 days. Okay, that is the days where a pregnancy can take place. And this is what I explained here. Ovum, 12 to 24 hours. Sperm, 4 to 5 days. I just want you to check what your book says. So from day 11 to day 16, in the cycle, the pregnancy is possible. Here, I have a picture, and I printed this picture for you. This picture tells us now different stages of development inside the ovum. Ovary. And here you can clearly see where you have the germinal epithelium, you see the development, and you see the released egg. That zona pellucida, that layer around the ovum, it has the function to make sure that only one sperm can enter, and then it closes off, like a gate that's locked, or a fence that's locked, and none else will enter. That is the function of the zona pellucida. Now, and there we see ovulation. Oh yes, there you see the name for that bubbles that we see around the ovum. They say it's the corona radiata. You don't have to know that name, but you will see it in pictures. And I want us now to look at the video, corona radiata. I want us now to look at a video about the menstrual cycle.
Ovulation and the menstrual cycle. The processes of ovulation and menstruation occur because of the interplay between the pituitary gland, the ovaries, and the uterus. At the start of a typical 28-day menstrual cycle, the hypothalamus secretes gonadotropin-releasing hormone,
not important for you,
into the network of blood vessels which surround the pituitary gland. This stimulates the cells of the pituitary gland to secrete follicle-stimulating hormone, or
that is
FSH,
important.
which travels through the bloodstream to reach the ovaries, where it stimulates the development of ovarian follicles. Each of the developing follicles consists of an immature egg, a number of cells which secrete estrogen and fluid. Most of these developing follicles degenerate by day 7, leaving only a single dominant follicle to grow, nourishing the developing egg inside it. FSH helps the egg to mature in preparation for its release during ovulation, while the estrogen secreted by the developing follicles helps in the regeneration of the endometrial lining of the uterus. Around day 12, it's a surge of estrogen into the bloodstream. Which reach the hypothalamus, resulting in the increased secretion of GnRH and stimulating the production of luteinizing hormone or LH by the pituitary gland.
Sorry, I just want to... did you hear there? FSH increase LH. If FSH is there, it will make sure LH will be secreted. You remember? Just want to take you back. Estrogen, high levels, decrease FSH. Otherwise, you will have an ovum getting ready while there's a pregnancy. You follow that? JP, you understand? Stays high. Stay high. But what is telling the luteinizing hormone? Can you see it's all interlinked? Now, to make sure everything works according to plan. Okay, right.
This flooding of LH into the bloodstream causes the follicle to bulge, acting as a trigger for the rupture of the follicle and ovulation around the middle of the cycle.
Day 40.
After its release, the egg is picked up by suction into the fin-related opening of the outer end of the fallopian tube. From here, it takes about 5 to 6 days to travel through the fallopian tube where fertilization occurs.
Celia?
Before the fertilized egg gets lodged in the wall of the uterine cavity. If fertilization of the egg fails to occur within 12 to 24 hours, the egg begins to disintegrate and is eliminated along with the shedding of the endometrial lining. After the follicle ruptures, it is converted into a structure known as the corpus luteum, which secretes the hormone progesterone. Progesterone creates important changes in the endometrial lining of the uterus, making it suitable for it to receive the fertilized egg. The secretion of progesterone is maintained for several days. But if the fertilization does not occur in this period, the corpus luteum repairs, resulting in a fall in the levels of progesterone and estrogen and a shedding of the uterine lining, starting the menstrual cycle all over again.
Okay, I think this is a very nice video. Do you agree to explain this? Okay, right. I want us now quickly to look at this interlink between all the hormones. In your book, it is important that you study it on page 440. Nee, there it will be explained. But what we say is, due to FSH, we have the follicle that starts to develop. FSH will help and increase the levels of estrogen. Estrogen will, in the blood, will make sure that LH will be secreted, because then the ovum will be released. And the LH will make the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum makes sure that progesterone is secreted. The moment if this level stays high of estrogen and progesterone, FSH will be blocked, will be inhibited. Okay. Do you understand this, class? Why this is important? To prevent another ovum to be released if one is already fertilized. Right. So this is quite a lot of information to remember. So we are going to do the pregnancy then tomorrow. I want you now to start with the questions. Question 3 and question 1, 2, 3 on the other page. Okay.
jy sy het nog steeds abandonment issues.
Dis moontlik.
Al ons moeite met die sprokies. Ek probeer so hard om my kind gelukkig te maak, maar ek kry dit nie reg nie.
Probeer net help, dis al.
Jy doen niks sonder bymotiewe nie.
So jy hou van die tattoo?
Nee. Maar jy kan nie liefde koop nie. En beslis nie myne nie.
Jou regular.
Am I that predictable?
Jy is 'n gereelde klant en ons net soveel maniere om koffie te drink.
How do you like your coffee?
Gewoonlik swart sonder suiker.
Does black and bitter only pertain to your coffee preference?
Ek hou maar net van my koffie sonder melk. Hoe gaan dit 'n bal raak slaan na 2 glase wyn?
That was part of my plan.
Wat? Om 'n tipsie te maak sodat jy kan ren.
I'm terrible at pata.
Right, class. So what, grade 12, what I want us to do today is some revision. Please check your answers. Please, I have the questions on here for the sake of the video, and I'm going to say the answers. So listen carefully so that you have the correct answers. Yes. So the first question was, on which day does ovulation takes place? I can see it in the picture. No. I can just read it from the picture. So it is on day 14. Between which days does menstruation takes place? Day 0 and day 7. Please tick your work. Please mark your work. Okay. Can you find your work? State one function of the luteinizing hormone. The luteinizing hormone is responsible for ovulation. Luteinizing, responsible for ovulation, but it's also responsible for the forming of the corpus luteum. That's the two functions of luteinizing hormone. Yes, you may use LH. You may use the word LH. Okay. Not if they ask, name the hormone. If they ask, name the hormone, you cannot write LH. But if they ask you to explain what is the function of the luteinizing, you can use LH. Okay. Or in another explanation. Describe the changes in the levels of LH shown in the graph. So, shown in the graph means you have to go and look. So this is not actually a real exam question. It is rather a revision question in the sense of it focuses you on the specific parts. Nah. So what is happening? The luteinizing hormone stays at low levels until day 12 or 13, where it increases, and after day 14 to day 15, it decreases immediately. Okay. Describe the relationship between the levels of estrogen and the endometrium from day 7 to day 14. From day 7, the estrogen levels increase and reach their highest levels just before day 14. During the increase of estrogen, we have also an increase in the thickness or the building up of the endometrium. That is the relationship. As estrogen increase, the thickness or the building up of the endometrium also increases. Okay. Explain why it is necessary for the levels of progesterone in the blood to increase after ovulation. The answer is progesterone maintains the thickness of the endometrium. It also helps with the development of blood vessels in the endometrium. And that prepares the uterus for implantation. Okay? So, maintain the thickness, progesterone, development of blood vessels, and that prepares the uterus or the endometrium for implantation. Did fertilization take place in the illustration on our graph? You say no, and you are correct. And the reason why you say no is? It didn't happen. What? Yes? Yes, Albert? The levels of the progesterone dropped. No. The corpus luteum will be there. Because even if fertilization took place, remember, what is the function of the corpus luteum? To secrete progesterone. So, if there is a pregnancy, the corpus luteum needs to continue making the progesterone. Okay, for the levels of the endometrium to stay high, to stay developed. Now, this is telling me the dropping of the progesterone levels is telling me that there was no pregnancy, no fertilization. Okay. And that is the explanation to our answer. Nee, the progesterone that dropped. Okay, right. The next question was this one. Okay, give labels for parts A, E, and G, respectively. Parts A, ovary. E is the fallopian tube. And G, the endometrium, or the wall of the uterus. G, endometrium, wall of the uterus. A, ovary. E, fallopian tube. G, endometrium, or wall of the uterus. The process takes place at B is the ovulation. B is ovulation. When during the menstrual cycle does this process take place? Day 14. Okay. Describe the process represented at D. So what is the process at D, Janus? Fertilization. So describe fertilization, and I want you to say fertilization is the fusion of the haploid nucleus of the sperm and the haploid nucleus of the ovum to form a diploid zygote. I want you to write all of that. Haploid, haploid nucleus of the sperm fuses with haploid or N, you can just write an N, haploid nucleus of the ovum to form a diploid, 2N, zygote. Okay, we can continue. Cell C, how many chromosomes? 23. Cell F, 46, because it is their fertilization took place. So 23 and 23 fuse together, so it's 46. Okay? And the last one, cell H is a sperm, ne? My picture is not that clear, but your picture is clearer. It is a sperm, so it is 23. Chorus, how many chromosomes in a red blood cell? While we are on the topic. How many chromosomes in a red blood cell? Ah, you're clever. Yes. Okay. No chromosomes in a red blood cell. There's no nucleus in a red blood cell. Nee. Good. Okay. The last question here shows the developing fetus inside the uterus. Name the parts. A, I will say is the placenta. A is the placenta and B the umbilical cord. Okay. Okay. The functions of the amniotic fluid. Okay, it's a water cradle to protect the baby against temperature changes. Pressure and shocks. No, shocks or gravity. It also it does not protect the baby against gravity, but it can move in this fluid. But it's also a shock absorber. But just add that. If you say amniotic fluid promote peristalsis, there will be no sense. No. But if you say while it is swallowing it, the baby starts to practice peristalsis, good. Okay. Right. One substance they diffuse from the fetal blood to the maternal blood. Let's name two. Urea and carbon dioxide from fetus to mother. The drug present in cigarette smoke? Nicotine is the drug. Nah. There are lots, but we only focus on the carbon monoxide because it prevents the oxygen to be transported, and then the nicotine and the negative effect that this could have on the developing fetus. Please do not say the fetus will get addicted. That is actually not now a problem. No. Increase of blood pressure due to the narrowing of the blood vessels. No. Okay. Right. And that, yes. Oh, you just said it's a water cradle. So it's a environment that is creating a perfect spot for the baby. No. But with that will not bring you a mark. You have to add temperature regulation, shock absorber, pressure is perfect inside for this tiny, tiny developing cells of the fetus. Okay. What? What is C? I think C is the fluid, so it's the amniotic fluid. Nee. So this will be the amniotic sac, and the fluid is the amniotic fluid. Just check where is the end of the line. No, that you do not think, I know that's the amniotic sac, and then you do not specify the correct answer. Okay. Okay, then grade 12. I also have the other one, and here I also have, for the sake of our video recording, I have the questions and the answers, so that we go through this. Now, grade 12, higher level. Please remember you are higher level. With this, we only have the knowledge. Nee. Make sure that you read in between lines. Make sure that you can apply this knowledge to whatever they ask. Think, what did I study about this? And then write in full sentences. Now, write in full sentences so that they see you know what you are talking about. So our first question was, fertilization occurs when the nucleus of a sperm, and when the nucleus of a sperm N, with N I mean haploid, cell fuses with the nucleus of the ovum, which is also haploid, and it forms a diploid zygote. Okay, some of this now is going to repeat the questions of the previous. Is it clear for you to see? I can enlarge it a tiny bit. The differences between the male gamete and the female gamete. The sperm is much smaller than regarding their size. Nee, sperm is much smaller. Regarding their structure, the ovum is spherical. Please don't say it is round. Nee, it is spherical or ball-shaped. The ovum has more cytoplasm than the sperm. And the sperm is elongated with a tail. We will not find a tail on the ovum. Their relative numbers, sperm are produced in much greater numbers, and sperm are produced limitedly through life. Nee. While ova, a little baby girl is born with a limited number of ova. Okay. Yes, I think it probably will. I think it probably will. Just tell me when we go to spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis, which type of cell division will take place to form sperms? Meiosis. Yes. One sperm germ cell will change into how many sperm cells? 4. One primary oocyte will change into 1, but they also change into 4, but 3 are called polar bodies, and only 1 change into an ovum. You remember oogenesis and spermatogenesis. Please don't skip that paragraphs in your book. Now, okay, right. Before fertilization can occur, the sperm must pass through and you had to order that. Sperm duct, urethra, vagina, cervix, uterus, and then oviduct. Now here in the blue, you can see the answer. You had to order that in the correct order. I don't think that's a higher level question. As I said, this is just to help you to have the knowledge which you can apply. Now, Are you okay, Koros, or do you have questions? No questions. Okay. Explain what is meant by ovulation. Ovulation is the release of an ovum from a mature follicle or a mature Graafian follicle in the ovary. The release of an ovum from a mature Graafian follicle in the ovary. It will happen, question B, ovulation occurs approximately once every 28 days. Explain why the chance of fertilization in humans is restricted only to a few days in the month. The sperm can fertilize an ovum for up to 3 days after entering the female reproductive system. And the ovum must be present, so ovulation must have taken place, and it survives for about 1 day. Next page. Diagram. First, let's quickly get the labels. Oh no, I see some of these labels did move. Nah. But on my picture, but I don't, did it also move? It's not move. It didn't move in your picture. So A is the vagina. B must be there at the cervix. The amnion is C. Amnion, I think C is touching that line only. Nah. C is touching the line. Can you see there? So C must be the amnion sac. Amnion sac. Better. D. Where's D? D will be the uterus. If it stops there, it is the uterus muscle. If it stops there, it is the uterus lining. Okay? E, they want to be the placenta. F, the fallopian tube or the oviduct. F. G is the fetus. Never ever the baby while it is not being born. Okay. Then I is the ovum maturing in the ovary. Number 2 is the ovum that is released from the follicle. So ovulation. Sure. This is really the lines really is very confusing here. 3, they want to have the sperms deposited at the top of the vagina. So 3 is then the depositing of the sperm. Then we have the ovum that's entering the oviduct. And how can the ovum move? It cannot swim. How can it move? It is transported by the movement of the cilia and the contractions of the fallopian tube. Sperm fertilizing the ovum and embryo implants at number Roman 6. The umbilical cord is a connection. But please, I do not have any marks there. Look at the marks. If they ask what is the function and they give you 1 mark, you say it's a connection. No. But actually, it's to transport oxygen and nutrients. So look at the mark indication to help you how much you must tell. In this case, I said the umbilical cord contains blood vessels which convey blood between between the fetus and the placenta. Possible effects on the fetus if the mother smokes. If the mother smokes, we know we can have an underweight baby. We know that the baby can get addicted to smoking. But then something interesting, catches rubella. Rubella is German measles. If a mother, the baby can be blind or deaf when the baby is born. If the mother catches rubella, the baby have ear problems and eye problems, or one of them, or both. Okay. Then the story about identical twins. It's a product of a single zygote which divide into two at an early stage of development. And then fraternal twins is the simultaneous fertilization of two ova. Blood test help to know the blood group of the mother. If the mother and the baby has different blood groups, the mother's blood can attack the baby's blood. Does it make sense to you? No? Okay. That antibodies is produced very, very early. And then it will kill the baby, because actually the baby's little blood clot inside the fetus blood clot inside the mother. So what they now do is, when the first baby is born, they inject a substance that remove all the antibodies from the mom's body. So I will explain. If we finish the questions, I want to explain why the mom's blood can attack the baby's blood. Okay, I just want us to finish this. Question 12. Place the events in the correct order for natural childbirth. So the first thing is contractions of the uterus. Then the amnion breaks. Amniotic fluid escapes. Cervix dilate. Baby's head, abdominal contractions. Then the head emerge. Then the feet emerge, and the placenta is lastly expelled. Okay, we can stop right here.
Beautiful souls, this is Nikita Winkler, and I am here to share easy tools for stretching that you can do just about anywhere. This is a demonstration, so what's most important is that you take the time in each position that your body needs to release its tension. In this session, we will stretch the hips. What you'll need are yoga blocks or books, thick books, or pillows, especially if you have tight hips. You can do this on a mat, on the floor, on a blanket, or even in your bed. Let's get started. So we're going to start on the floor with the soles of our feet together. I'm going to grab around the feet. This is a butterfly position. So in order to warm up the hips, I'm just going to flap the butterfly wings. And again, take your time. I'm going to lean forward, and here, again, if the hips are too tight, you can place your blocks, books, or pillows underneath. You might even feel a stretch in the back here. From this position, I'm going to take one arm right behind me, not too far from my body. The other arm, inhale, exhale, press the hip open. And come back to center. Change. One arm right behind me to lengthen the spine, the other hand on the knee. Inhale, exhale, press the hip open. And back to center. Now we're going to lie down on the floor. And first, before I get started, I have to make sure that my body, my spine is in alignment. I'm going to just open up the neck area. And you can spend as much time as you need here, allowing the force of gravity to weigh on the legs to open up the hips. You can place your blocks, books, or pillows underneath the knees. And gradually, you can take the feet even further down and spend enough time in each position. From here, we're going to go into an internal hip rotation. I'm going to spread my feet to the side, lean the knees inwards. If you have a little bit more flexibility, you don't really feel the stretch, just take your feet even further apart to deepen this internal rotation stretch in your hips. From here, I'm just going to place my feet, and without repositioning the feet, I'm going to take my arms to the side, and then I'm just going to rock my legs side to side, keeping the upper body facing up, shoulders down. And then I'm going to stop on one side, take the lower leg over the upper to add weight to deepen the stretch. Release the leg and switch. Other side, lower over the upper. And back to center. Last part, I'm going to spread my legs as wide open as I can, and I'm going to just row the boat. So what's important here is that the knees don't lift off the floor. Make sure you row both sides. Keep the knees and both bum cheeks on the floor. Alternatively, you can just lean forward. You can hang out on the pillow. Take your time on the blocks or on your books. And that is it. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to breathe into your stretches, and happy stretching.
And your rewards card, please.
It's the Spa Rewards Grand Cash Giveaway, where you can win instant cash to spend on what you want the most. Plus, get amazing savings like Spa Extra Shelf Life Milk for just $26.99 or Bacoma Wheat Bix for only $19.99. Win your share of thousands in cash instantly with the Spa Rewards Grand Cash Giveaway, only at Spa.